I know it's going to be a good day today because I get to talk about my favorite book series again, the Stormlight Archive. As indicated by my channel uploads recently, I have been binging through Brandon Sanderson's The Stormlight Archive, and I have finally finished Book 3, Oathbringer, and I am up to date with the rest where everyone else is sitting. I will admit, I was a little bit nervous going into this one because the only thing I had heard was, very broadly speaking, people liked the third book, Oathbringer, less than the previous two. I will admit that while I was reading this book, I kept waiting for some overtly negative thing to happen, because when I heard those broad statements, I kind of assumed that meant that somebody important was going to drastically change in a way that ruined their character, or there was going to be some horrible trope displayed in a poor way. I had never read Brandon Sanderson before, so I didn't know how much faith to have in him, short of the fact that I was absolutely obsessed with the first two books in the series. And so I will admit that while I was reading, I was just constantly, I had this monkey on my back that was beating me down saying, something bad's about to happen in this book. And so I wanted to clarify some things about what I think about Oathbringer. The first thing that I feel like you have to mention is this book is even bigger than the previous two. Each book in the Stormlight Archive has gotten bigger so far, and so Oathbringer is, like, in audiobook form at least, 10 hours-ish longer than The Way of Kings. Because of the plot lines and the characters established in the first two books, that extra time was kind of given to a broader overall scope and attempt at fleshing out more of the world and more of the side characters. That is to say, when you have a book this big, it's not like they stopped the focus on the main characters, they just also added a lot more focus on additional things that were going on. Which is to say that compared to the super tight, deliberate pacing in the first one, and also the frenetic revelations of the second one, Oathbringer can at times feel like there are longer parts that aren't as necessary. Fans of the other goings on about in the world of Roshar, and people who kind of thought that Bridge 4 took too much of a background role in the previous two books, might actually be excited, because in this book we get POVs from a lot more of the members from Bridge 4, as well as just external characters. We're not just limited as much as we have been in Way of Kings and Words of Radiance. Also, because of the nature of the events of the previous two books, we get to see Roshar at a more global perspective. We get a lot more time in various different locations, some of them very interesting and strange, than we did with the previous fairly limited geographical scope of the other two books. But if I were to guess, the negative feelings towards this book probably come from the fact that with that extra length and an extra time seeing other things and focusing on other things, it might feel a little bit more drawn out and not quite as tight as either The Way of Kings or Words of Radiance. Depending on what you're into, that may be awesome, or maybe it won't work as well for you. For me, myself, I kind of found it in like a little bit of a middle ground. Yes, I loved getting all of it, but it also was a little bit plotting to get through at times. And when you're talking about a book that's like 13 or 1400 pages, that's a lot. But Stormlight has kind of always asked a lot of its readers, and the types of people that read these stories are usually clearly into epic fantasy with grand world scale type things. So ultimately, I consider it a win, and I kind of say to the people that were putting down this book or like giving me those negative meta impressions, nah, it's not that bad. So what are some other thoughts that I have from Oathbringer? So first of all, something I thought that was worth mentioning is, yeah, if you've seen my Goodreads recently, I am also rereading The Way of Kings right now. I really wanted my wife to experience this story, and she knows it's my favorite, and she thought it would be romantic and cute if I read it to her. So I'm reading Amanda the Way of Kings. I told her that Michael Kramer and Kate Redding do a much better job than I do, but she thought it was sweet and all that jazz. So mostly it's just me stammering and realizing that when I'm trying to read out loud, nearly 100% of the time misspeak soldier for shoulder and vice versa. You might be surprised in The Way of Kings how often the words soldier and shoulder come up, sometimes in the same paragraph. Bridge 4, baby. But the reason I bring that up is because there is some incredibly powerful bookending that happens. I'm reading the beginning of The Way of Kings, and we are seeing some things tie up and tie back into that at the end of Oathbringer that are just so good. So my Oathbringer experience is being greatly heightened by the fact that I am seeing those tiebacks to The Way of Kings as I just finished Oathbringer. Additionally, while I talked about the kind of plot and the pacing earlier on, I want to say that it is all completely worth it. This book has some major hard-hitting revelations dropping at various points throughout the story, but the climactic ending, the final battle where everything that the book has been building up comes together into an explosive, like Avengers-style cinematic battle is just insane. And so many different revelations and truths and new information and explosive reveals happen just within this crazy punch-packing ending. There was one thing at the end of Words of Radiance that I really freaked out about at the end. This book has so many of them. I feel so bad for you people who finished this book in 2017 and you have been waiting so long to get more reveals. I feel for you. I only have to wait a few months. Can you tell that I'm giddy? Can you tell I'm excited? So yeah, more world building, more character growth, insane ending. And Oathbringer also follows the pattern of The Way of Kings focus heavily on flashbacks related to Kaladin. Words of Radiance focuses on flashbacks related to Shallan. Oathbringer focuses, as you might guess, on flashbacks related to Dalinar Kholin. And oh man, while a large portion of what Dalinar's life looked like before The Way of Kings was implied and foreshadowed, we never fully got to grasp who he was when he was the Blackthorn. Oathbringer pounds into our head the story and life of Dalinar Kholin in an amazing way, and we'll say that the theme of Oathbringer as a whole is my favorite trope realized in one of the most epic and awesome and beautiful ways. And as we know, the names of these books tie to books that are that have in-world equivalents. The Way of Kings being what it was in that first story as kind of like a hybrid between like the biblical books of like Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Words of Radiance was a little bit less interesting. Oathbringer, that's a fire book. I mean that as the one we have and the one in world as well. In my opinion, all of your other main characters also get good arcs this book as well. Kaladin, Shallan. We get a little tiny peek, and maybe some more of Renarin. Not gonna say what happens there, but I will say that if you have been a fan of the first two books and you're reading through this series, don't be as intimidated by this book expecting something majorly horrible to happen the way that I was. Just know that, yeah, it's longer, and so we have a little bit less of a tight plot and a lot more expansion into the world and the side characters. I, of course, as you can tell from me speaking about this, give Oathbringer a 5 out of 5. Yay. If this at all sounds interesting to you, you should go read The Way of Kings. Thank you guys for watching my videos. Thank you so much to all the new subscribers that came over from Murphy's live stream recommendation. That blew my mind, and I literally lost my breath when that happened. If you happened upon this video on my channel and you haven't already subscribed, I would appreciate it if you did. I love to talk books with all of you in the comments down below. Are you guys looking forward to reading this series? Have you read this series? I want to throw out also just an open invitation. If you guys are friends with me, follow me on Twitter or Instagram, and you're reading through this series, I'm kind of always down to just get random revelatory text as my friends read through this and they hit major plot points. Seeing other people have their mind explode with love for this series brings continual joy to me. I know this series has been out for a long time, and I am also brand new to it. I'm so glad I'm not the only one late to this party, but I want to bring everybody in as much as possible. At this point in the video, I'm going to ask those people who haven't read the previous books to go ahead and turn away, because I'm going to be talking spoilers for Oathbringer from this point forward. Thank you guys all for watching. I've loved having you here, and now spoiler time. There are just so many highlights that I feel happen with the character arcs in this book, specifically with Dalinar. If you read the series and you've seen other people talk about the book, that's probably obvious at this point, but Dalinar's redemption arc and the way that it ties back with what are the most important words a man can say, what's the most important thing a man can do, what's the most important step a man can take. These familiar yet powerful themes hit home in a way that was perfect. Like I said, also rereading that beginning section with Gavilar and then seeing the flashbacks of Dalinar's life previous to his discovery of the Way of Kings and the Night Watcher visit, or should I say the visit with Cultivation. We are able to spend some extra time with the listeners, and I absolutely loved it because I was really afraid that after the Everstorm came, the Parshendi would all just become evil, what we then knew as Voidbringers, the Fused, and I thought that then they were just going to be the dumb evil race. And they were so cool with their culture being so interesting, with the songs and the way they could feel the rhythms within each other just naturally. I thought I wanted to see more of that culture, and I was afraid that after the Everstorm came, all the Parshendi would just be these evil monsters and we would lose access to that culture. I mean, they were afraid of that too, I guess. But with the name of the next book being called Rhythm of War, I'm really hoping that we spend a ton of time with Venali after she was able to bond with like a good spren. I think one of Honor's spren. I still don't fully know how the hierarchy works here, but I love how much information we get on it here. I could peruse that and ponder on that and try to figure it out for a while. Is that what the rest of you guys have been doing since you read this book, 2-3 years ago? I will say I was genuinely shocked by a couple things. One, I did not expect the king to die. I didn't expect them to kill him. I thought he was going to get his own little redemption arc. He kind of did. But when he died, I was genuinely shocked. It blew me away. It's going to further cement Moash as a bad guy. I always want characters to get a redemption arc. I'm not sure he's going to now. The fact that it broke Kaladin completely down and he was even unable to be the Superman in this book. He wasn't able to save everybody in the final climactic thing, while still getting to fight a hardcore fight and be, get the lightsaber duel that the Jedi deserves at the end. All of that was fascinating. But after the king died, I kind of expected more main characters to die at the end of this book. And in one way, I'm happy that they didn't. Because, I don't want my favorite characters to die. But at the same time, the stakes were so high, I'm surprised that more didn't happen. I thought Renarin was going to die during that one scene, though, like I said, I'm interested to see more about him because we haven't seen that much from Renarin. We really don't know who he is. We don't know that much about him. Maybe we get some Renarin POVs in the next book. I thought at one point Adolin was going to die. It made it seem like Adolin was going to die at one point, and that was going to be, whew. I love Adolin. He's so cool. I've loved him in the previous 2 books. It would have been epic, but also crazy if he died in this book, but I thought it might happen. I thought Dalinar might die in this book. It looked like he was going to at one point. We saw him broken down to his very fundamentals and then trying to pick up the pieces a second time in his life. Like I said, was powerful. I thought he might die. He didn't. I think maybe another main character death could have really cemented this ending as being absolutely insane. But it already was. There were so many moving pieces and so many things happening. As someone who hasn't read Warbreaker, but I'm reading it now, I realize that, the black sword that Szeth is given is related to those books in a way that I fully don't understand. And I don't know if I ever will, because I don't understand what's happening in Warbreaker yet. We'll see. I feel like I've been rambling for a long time. I'm going to have to look and see what this video looks like in post because editing is going to be a nightmare. At this point, part of me wants to just marathon the rest of the Cosmere so I could finish the entire Cosmere by the time the next book comes out. That way I can see all of the references and ways that it ties into everything else. I'm not sure if that's possible. I'm also trying to read the Dresden Files and other things. Who knows what's going to happen? But books are awesome and we've got a lot more time to read them right now, and I'm able to do that some. So I hope all of you are having a good day that are seeing this far in the video. I love you all. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video, comment. Please tell me what you thought of Oathbringer. Did it bother you? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think of Dalinar's arc? Make sure you leave a spoiler tag if you're leaving a spoilery comment so people don't accidentally run across that. I love you all. I hope you're having a good day, staying safe and sane. See you next time.
Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.